So welcome to the webinar today, the 30-minute deployment challenge. We're going to show you how to deploy Approov to protect your mobile apps and APIs, and hopefully we're going to do it in 30 minutes. We're going to find out if that's possible or not. I'm George McGregor, and Skip is with me. We both work for Approov, which specializes in API threat protection and mobile app protection. And so we're going to talk today a little bit around starting an Approov trial. And really, our objective is to get you to start an Approov trial. So, the assumption here is that you know a little bit about Approov already. Mobile apps are certainly a critical part of your business, and you have some level of concern around the security of your mobile apps. So, we're assuming all of that is true, because you wouldn't have attended the webinar otherwise. And so, our intent is to jump straight in and really show you how easy it is to set up Approov, show the kind of insights that you'll gain on the threats to your environment and how Approov mitigates these threats, and then help eliminate any barriers preventing you from starting a trial, and really see if we can get you to see this as something that is a very useful in process for you to undertake. So we'll have the Q&A running all the time here. So, if you have any questions, just put them in there. My job will principally be to pay attention to that and make sure that I convey the questions to Skip while he's doing the hard work here. And, anything that comes to mind, just stick it in there and we'll address it. But really, this is what we want to try to achieve today. So how we're going to do it is there'll be a little bit of an introduction. I'll talk just very briefly about the threats that we address, that we see out there, and how we address them. And then we'll hand over to Skip, and he'll talk about the app environment he's set up for this exercise. And he'll also talk about the things that he will be doing to set up Approov when we do start the clock. And then we'll start the clock, and then that will run for 30 minutes. And at the end of that, we'll show some of the reporting. We'll debrief, we'll wrap up, and then if there's any remaining questions, we'll address those, and then we'll let you all get on your way at that point. So that's the layout. Again, Q&A will be open all the way through. Use the button in Zoom to ask any questions. So let me just jump in with a quick introduction. So, are you concerned? Well, as I said at the beginning, I think you are, and that's why you're here. There seems to be not a day goes past without some new attacks, which are largely using the mobile channel or the mobile app channel. People who are stealing secrets to access APIs and then creating some kind of script or fake app. And these can take many forms, but here are just some of them. So, account takeover, fake account creation, denial of service attacks, scraping for competitive purposes. We see examples of all of these, and it's in healthcare, it's in fitness apps, it's credit card scores being stolen. There are examples literally every day of these types of attacks taking place. So, if your business depends on a mobile app, you have to be concerned about these threats, and you need to be taking steps to mitigate them. So, you have to ask yourself, do you even know what's going on out there? Once you've deployed your mobile app, it's out in the wild, it's being downloaded, it's being used, but it may not be being used in the way that you expect it to be used. So if you look at this, here are just some of the things that you should understand and be able to protect yourself against. So that, there's a level of understanding and insights around what's happening in your environment, and then there's the ability to take action. So the first ones, are your apps actually being inspected and analyzed? One of the key things about mobile apps is they are. You can decompile them, you can inspect them, you can steal secrets from them. You can modify them, modify the way they operate, and clone them, and distribute them via different channels to people to use them. Are there man-in-a-device attacks intercepting your communications? It's actually pretty straightforward to put something on a mobile device that can intercept communications. So do you think that's happening in your environment? Are your apps running in mobile devices which are rooted or jailbroken, or are they attached to emulators, debuggers, or all sorts of other kinds of frameworks? You need to really understand that, because that could also be stealing information, but also interfering with the way that the app is operating. And there's been plenty of examples of that taking place. And then, all of these, the top 3 bullets here, a lot of that is to do with collecting information. And then the last one is really about using that information. So, are bots or scripts or cloned apps actually using secrets and information and credentials that have been stolen and targeting your APIs at scale to steal information? So, you need to understand all of this and take action to prevent this kind of thing happening. Now, you're probably doing some things about it, and here are some of the things that you should be and could be looking at. And I wanted just to talk a little bit about each one of these in turn. So shift left initiatives to eliminate vulnerabilities early in development. Of course, this is very important and has had a lot of attention in the last few years. So the whole DevSecOps movement, etc. But there are real resourcing issues in the development life cycle. And no matter how hard you try, you're never going to eliminate all the vulnerabilities. It's just, you just don't have a team big enough to do this. So, you need to think about doing something that will give you some level of protection while you're doing this exercise of eliminating vulnerabilities. The second one here is, there are lots of tools to help you obfuscate the mobile app code. And those are useful, but they're not foolproof, and secrets can still be stolen. And what do you do about the most recent breaches, which are secrets being stolen from cloud repositories and development environments, and really due to development leaks much further upstream? Protecting your mobile app code doesn't help you with that. The third one is, you're probably using WAFs and API gateway security, and there is some basic security there. But the issue with that is that it's really oriented towards web apps and browser-based access. And really, they are very heavily oriented towards protecting that kind of web app access, and they're not really relevant for the mobile use case. And then finally, there's a lot of buzz around AI and machine learning in the back end for API protection and for application protection or bot protection. But the issue there, and again, this is increasingly being highlighted in the industry, is the lack of transparency sometimes with these methods, and the danger of creating a lot of false positives that need to be managed. And it comes back to this resource issue that security teams have. They don't necessarily have a lot of people that can manage these kind of tools and really make sure that there's no genuine traffic being blocked. So really, one piece in the puzzle here is to make sure that you can protect yourself with what we call a client-side runtime protection, which can block threats without generating false positives. And that's really going to be important. So all of these have a role to play, but you really need to think about runtime shielding as first of all, we would say. So what Approov does is it does 3 things very well, and these are the 3 green points in the middle here. So on the left you've got your user, on the right you have the service, and our premise is you have to protect everything between the user and the service. And the 3 things that we do very well are we will attest the app. So we'll make sure that it's a genuine, untampered, unmodified application that you have created and you have allowed to be distributed. The second thing we will do is we give a full, a highly granular view of what is going on in the client environment. And that's what we call this client environment validation. And that allows you to know if the device has been rooted and if there's anything attached to the app. And then the third thing that we do really well is we make sure that the channel is secure, and we use a dynamic pinning process to do that, which has the advantage of completely locking down that channel and making it impossible for anyone to attack it either from the channel or from the device itself. And it also manages the process in a way that there's no danger of any service interruption, and there's no need to update applications when you have to update the pins, because it's all taken care of. So in doing those three things, the overall outcome is that only a genuine mobile app can access your API successfully. No scripts, no bots, nothing will access the API, and requests from anything like that will be turned away. And that means that you're protecting your user credentials, which can easily be stolen or can be used, it can be acquired, if you like, from a credential stuffing attack. We protect those from being exploited, and we protect the service from being exploited, because we block any API access which is not coming from a genuine app and a genuine user. So this is what we do, and this is what Approov does very well. And now we're going to show you how you put it in place, because it's a cloud service, so it's easy to deploy, it's easy to manage, and you'll see now how we can set up the service and how how we can protect you against these kind of threats. So Skip, I'm done at this point, so I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you, George. Hello, everybody. So let me share my screen. And here we go. All right, so you should see a browser window on the left and a coding environment VS Code on the right. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of walk through the steps today in integrating Approov into an app. I'm running a React Native app with Android and iOS development environments. I'm running a backend service environment, but I will be running on real hardware, real devices, and on my backend will be up on an Amazon API gateway. So let's jump in, and let me explain what we're going to do today, just by way of using a simple animation here. So you have an app, and in this case, this is our Shapes app. This is kind of goes with every one of our quick starts when we're kind of doing tutorials on how to get Approov integrated. It's simply making a call through to a backend Shapes service that is replying with random shapes that are going through. If you had something of value, shapes aren't particularly valuable, then you would have hackers and malicious actors attempting to get access to whatever of value you have, primarily and often and more frequently by attacking the API. So you'll start looking into your mobile app, maybe do some static analysis, maybe do some runtime analysis, runtime hooking to extract information and PII and credentials, or you can stick yourself right in the middle and try and spoof yourself as being the back end and take secrets and information from the both the mobile and the back end by being in the middle. So once you have extracted enough credentials, know enough about the API, then you're, as a hacker, going to go ahead and try and attack that resource and start stealing shapes in this case. So what we're going to do today is take an app and we're going to integrate Approov into it. So the first thing you're going to do is take the Approov SDK, integrate it in by dropping it into the application environment, and hook into the networking stack. And once you initialize and rerun that, then your app will be going out and asking to be attested by the Approov service. At that point, it will evaluate, as George said, those three integrities. It will be pinning the connections and also looking at the app and the device and making sure that they are untampered and clean and healthy. If they are, it will return an Approov token. This here, if it is in some way not healthy, then it will return a token, but the token itself will not be valid. So if you were to go ahead in this case and run the backend where you'd actually check that Approov token that's now coming through, you would add the JWT token checking, and all the bots would fail because they have no tokens. And here, this Shapes app would fail primarily because it's not been registered with the Approov service. So though it is integrated with Approov, the last step is to actually register the app itself so we can extract kind of the DNA to do the checking that we're doing at runtime. So we'll go ahead and register this with Approov. As you can see now, Approov is serving valid tokens in. Those tokens are being passed back to the Shape service, which is now approving these API calls as being authentic, and it is returning shapes through. And it is still blocking all the bot traffic in this case. So we're going to go through exactly these steps, let's go ahead and move right into the applications. So I have a video app. This is something I actually started with one of my first React Native courses. And I've been sort of taking what was from the course, extending it, integrating, Approov, and doing things. It's very much a work in progress. This is running on a Pixel 3a and Android right here. And it's also running on an iPhone 6S, an old iPhone that I have. So this is kind of like I call it Preflix. It's kind of Netflix-like in the interface. And it's going to a movie database and is giving you information about movies that you might be interested in looking at. If you're interested, you can play the trailer, which will play a video. And you can move backward and forward. You can search the API and say, look for movies that have the title George in it for George McGregor. We'll go ahead and search. And sure enough, we find Curious George. That's not too surprising. So this is the basic functionality of the apps. These apps are running, as I said, in React Native. The backend, let me just put this up. The backend environment, so here are the React Native apps. There's no user authentication in this particular app at this time, but we will be integrating Approov in. But this is the main API calls going into an API service, which actually is a serverless API gateway implementation running up on Amazon. And then there's a backend movies database that I'm accessing to get all the information. So in beginning to do the Approov integration, if you are going to the Approov website, you can look in our resources page and you can see the various quick starts. If you're doing a native integration, there's going to be quick starts for different languages as well as different networking stacks. You're really going to be doing a couple simple steps. You're going to be integrating the SDK. You're going to be hooking into the networking to activate the pinning with the Approov assistance, as well as doing intercepting and adding Approov tokens that are being returned by the SDK. And lastly, you just need to initialize that. So most of the front-end integrations look like that. The back-end API gateway that we'll be using is, again, fairly straightforward. All we're really doing is adding an Approov token check, which is a simple JWT token check. And in the React Native case, React Native is a bit different because all the networking is on another side of a bridge from the JavaScript source code that most developers are working with. So rather than going through and making modifications in the source code, everything is done on the other side of the bridge, kind of in the internals of React Native. So the integration is actually automated through that service, and that's what we're going to be using today. So I'm going to start by just getting rid of iOS for now, and we'll focus on our system here. So we're going to move over to the Android app. And
are we starting the clock?
Oh, yes, I guess we're going to have to start the clock. Let me show you one more thing here. This is, so if you're a hacker and you have enough information of the backend API, here's a call to the API Preflix app doing that search for George. And you can see that it is protected in this case by an API key. So if we go ahead and make the call, which is blocked because of my picture, then you can see here's the return from the code showing the movies with Curious George here. It is protected by an API key, so if you were to change that, then you're going to get an invalid API key. So let's go ahead and fix that back. Make sure we're working. Great. Okay, so the hacker is able to hack, and that's what we want to stop from happening. All right, George, I think it is time to start.
22 minutes past the hour.
All right,
2 minutes, the clock is starting.
Great. So we currently have the device running here. Everything is good. So we're going to want to run the React Native integration. So I am going to make sure I'm in the right place, and that looks good. So in order to do this, the first thing I'm going to do is go up to an npm package at Approov. You can find the same thing in our GitHub repository, and try and spell correctly. And I'm going to just run a check on this React Native app just to make sure what state it's in. And we'll go ahead and proceed. All right, so first thing it told me is that it couldn't check with Approov because I haven't logged into my Approov CLI account. So it's a live demo. So when you run a trial, or if you're a customer, you will get access to the Approov CLI, and you will be issued some user and role credentials. So I'm today going to be this guy, an administrator in my own account. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to that role. And if I do an Approov API-list, it'll just show me what APIs I'm currently protecting after I enter my password. So you can see we're protecting a few different APIs, one of which I've already added the API preflexapp.com to one of the APIs that I want to approve. So now we will go back and retry our checking of the Approov app. And hopefully we'll get a little further this time. Okay, so it discovered we are in a React Native project. It found in Android that there's a missing access network state that is not in our native Android by default in React Native. So I'm going to go ahead and start fixing that right now. I'm going to go into the app, into the Android environment, to the app source code, main, and here's the permissions. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to change this to the access network state. And that should do it. So that's good. Everything else, it found iOS. So there's no Approov in this service right now, but everything looks good. It's got both Android and iOS in this React Native project. So the next thing I'm going to do is do the integration. So I'm going to run integrate, and we will go ahead and do this. If you're running native on Android or iOS, or you're on one of the other front-end quick starts, you would be going through these similar steps where you'd be doing it manually because you have access to the actual source code and the interacting with the networking. So in this case, it's asking me what I want to use as an approved token header name. I'm just going to check the default, no special prefixes. I'm not binding to user authentication. I'm not going to launch a prefetch, and I'm not going to use Bitcode on iOS. So here we go. Keep your fingers crossed. Mine are. And we're doing the addition of the Approov packages for the integration. So this is actually being done as a React Native native module. And it's putting that in, running the installs. And George, if you want to provide any color commentary at any time or ask any questions, that would be fine.
Well, so there is a question, and it's maybe relevant to this stage in the process. So we have a question about whether Approov will work with the Uno platform. And I don't think we've got a quick start for that. I had a quick look to see what it is. It's a multi-platform development environment. But maybe the question is more around how do we handle a case where we don't actually have a quick start, for example, if it's some environment that is
So
not
actually,
covered by.
I'm not familiar with the Uno environment, so I'm not sure. Okay, good. We failed, and that's because I forgot to stop the app. So it was working hard trying to keep up with all the changes I was making in the app. So let me just get rid of that. And we should have an app that's running, but of course the real pudding test here is to go ahead and run it. So we'll do a yarn React Native run Android, and hopefully everything will work. So we've integrated Approov in, and we're now building to see what's going to happen. We haven't done anything to the backend yet, so we're still not checking tokens. So if this works, we have Approov integrated. It is fetching tokens and passing tokens to the backend, but the backend doesn't know what to do with them. So it's just going to go ahead and return everything. So everything should work in an unprotected-like mode as we go through. So back to your question. As I said, I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with Uno. I'd have to take a look at that. In general, we are customer driven with feature requests to Approov, as well as the addition of quick starts, both front end and back end, and any other kind of special requests our customers make. So in this case, if a request came in about Uno, then we would take a look at it and investigate what it takes, probably work with the customer to do a trial integration and build that into a quick start for future. And that's frankly how most of our quick starts are done and how quite a few of our features are added. For instance, the Approov command line tool was developed. We used to have a web interface, but it was driven by customers wanting to be able to write scripts to do a lot of automation. So now everything you do in Approov is driven through the Approov command line interface, including fetching updated SDKs, controlling whitelisting and blacklisting of devices, launching metrics evaluations, and everything you need for CI and CD kind of testing. Everything's been driven by experience with the customers. So in this situation, it looks like we were successful. We do have an app running. We can look at the back end. Just let me launch some back end checks. So I'm going to just take a look at logs. They're a bit slow because they're going up to Amazon CloudFront and coming back down. But as we actually engage with this app, we should be seeing different activities. Okay, database returned nothing in that case. The database, unfortunately, isn't perfect, so sometimes it doesn't return good information. So you can see we're just starting to get some passing through, and you can see in this case we have a 304. What that actually means is that it grabbed the information out of the cache rather than making a full API round trip with the download. Here's a 200 case where they did actually download that movie information. So that was something I hadn't been to before. So the next step will be actually to work on this backend. So let's move over to the console itself. And I'm going to go into the actual API code here. So I'm running an API gateway and a serverless Node Express implementation. So I used Express, even though it's serverless, just because it was familiar to me. So we'll go ahead and look at the handler here. So you see a very typical kind of setup we have. Here's our API that's being handled. And here is the API key check that's being done in the middle. And the only thing we need to add is an Approov authorization check. So this is it right here. It's always going to be enabled. In this case, we're getting the secret from an environment, so I'm not going to show you what that secret is. We're fetching the Approov token from the header called Approov token, and we're using just an off-the-shelf JWT check using the Express JWT package. I think that's from Auth0. and it's just checking the secret against the token using the algorithm. In this case, I'm just using a symmetric hash algorithm. And so that is just going to be dropped in as middleware over in our handler, which I can't get to because of the webinar software. So let's go this way. So I'm just going to uncomment this, and it's now going to add the approve auth check in addition to the API key check. So I will save that. And I'm going to go ahead and redeploy up to Amazon. So this will take another 2 minutes probably, and hopefully nothing will go bad. So what we're doing here is we're now enabling approved token checks. So just like the key, it's going to check the tokens that are coming in. These are short lifetime approve standard JWT tokens signed with a secret that I know as the backend developer, and Approov knows. And you can get access to and change that again through the Approov command line interface. So there is no Approov secret on the running in the application itself, so you can't steal the secret. And the tokens are valid for only 5 minutes each. So each instance of your device, each user running this will, as they're running actively, will have their device and app checked for integrity every 5 minutes as it goes through. So we're still updating here. George, any other questions while we're waiting?
Yeah, so there is a question here. We've talked about Android and iOS. There's a question here around Microsoft UWP for Windows, etc. Any comments on that?
Wait, you're just asking questions that are not on my side. I'm not the guy that works on the Microsoft side. So I'm not sure. Note the question and the user, and we will get back to them.
Oh, so in terms of the, so there's another question here around the back end. You showed the back end quick starts at one point there, and this question is like, what's the general approach to the back end? You know, is it, because it looks like there's things here that are API gateways. You're using the AWS API gateway, but there's like a mixture of other things here. So I guess the question is really, what's the best practices around the back end?
Good question. So here are some of the back end quick starts we have, and you're right. We have something that's Ruby or Node that are running that really are running API services themselves, and you have something like a gateway, and you even have something like a CDN in Cloudflare. So the point, I guess, is that here's a commercial gateway. So there are a broad set of appliances out there, and you can choose when exactly you want to check your approved token. So as you're making your API call, you could be checking it in your CDN if you wanted to. In a sense, if you have something deployed at Cloudflare, if you have a Lambda deployed on the edge, you're making this out early. You can wait till it gets to your ingress point and check it in your ingress or in your gateway, or you can check it out when it gets all the way back to the actual API service that is giving the answers to the API requests. So we generally recommend the earlier you can check it, the better. But we offer everything.
You're saving money and processing time, and the further downstream you can block that
yeah, absolutely. And
traffic.
If you do look at the telemetry from customers that we work with, certainly there is a significant percentage of traffic that is just probing and illegitimate traffic that is getting weeded out, which we see, it could vary 5 to 10% if you're not attacking, you're just kind of everyday stuff going on. So
we also have
running me up short on my clock. So let me just take another step, and then we'll get back to the questions. Sure. So here we now have the backend hopefully blocking the searching. So we're going to go ahead And again, there's no API token being passed. We run it through, and you can see there was no authorization token. I went to jwt.io and I just grabbed a random JWT token. So it is a valid JWT token here. I'm just going to go ahead and add that for demonstration purposes. And you can see we're getting an invalid signature because we don't know what the secret is. So it does look like our backend is working. So at this point, we should be able to stop this app, which is running, and restart it. And we should hopefully still see that it's okay. So I'm sorry, I'm not showing you what's going on here. Let me do that again just so you can see. So we'll run through, we'll launch the app. It's grabbing an approved token, and it's not working. And the reason it's not working in this case is what I showed in the animation, where we have not registered this application yet with Approov. And so there's of course, an Approov CLI command called Approov. Oops, let me get into the console. Approov registration, and then you have to find your path. I'm not doing it right. To the APK or the bundle. In this case, I'm going to cheat because I can't type all that stuff out. So I'm going to, one of the things we did with the React Native is we added a convenience function. So I'm just going to run yarn React Native, and I'm going to register Android. So this is going to register Android here. So it's actually just calling the Approov registration command.
So just a question there, you do that, and then you once you've registered it, then you can put it on the App Store, and that's kind of the process, right?
Yeah, you can register it before or after you put it up on the App Store. But in this case, I'm just sliding onto the devices. And you can unregister it in the Play Store if you wanted to shut down your app for whatever reason. So when I use this convenience function, as I said, it's calling the Approov registration, and it's just running for just an hour. So this is useful during development if you just want to go ahead and register the app, and knowing that it's not going to be sitting around forever. So this is typically used in testing. So again, I'm going to relaunch the app, and hopefully this will work. Bingo. Okay, so everything's looking good. Let's go look back over here at our API logs. And yep, we're getting our get storing through with 200s and 300s. We can go ahead and search for George again. Oh, you know what? Maybe we'll search for Skip this time. It's kind of depressing when you search for Skip.
Yeah, you've got a typo there. You're going to find some Australian movies about kangaroos. I think that's my prediction.
Yeah, I did filter out all the adult movies, so hopefully it won't be too bad. Okay, there we go. We do have some skips. We've got the really exciting movie, My Dog Skip, with a toilet. Great, makes me feel good. Okay, I think Curious George is a little nicer. So this seems to be working. I think we've demonstrated, at least on Android, that everything is working. And I'm going to go ahead now and jump over to really take a risk and launch iOS. iOS takes quite a while to build.
All right, so the good news is Android took 20 minutes, right? So that's less than 20 minutes.
So I got that going. And we have our backend running. And because I integrated in React Native, we already have the iOS code integrated because they did both at the same time. So I'm going to go over here to an iOS console. Oops. And I am going to bravely launch React Native. And I'm going to run iOS. And because I'm running in hardware, I have to add this for iOS, and we're off and running. Okay, so that's running. Of course, it tells you there's an error, and that's just because there's a few older packages in there that needed to be linked manually. So it tells you an error, then it says, if so, then sorry, it's really not an error. Okay, no iOS devices connected. That's interesting. So we failed on that score. Let's try again. Let's see if I've got that coming through. Okay, so it thinks there's a device there. Hopefully that's going to work this time. And the nerve-wracking part. Okay. Good. It seems to have found that. Okay, so now just want to show some of the things that we've defended against. As I said over here, for the hacker who's trying to exploit the interface, they're not getting anywhere. So we blocked hackers and bots and everything that's coming through that cannot prove that it is an authentic app running on a healthy device. The next thing we like to do is we want to make sure that that channel is pinned down, and Approov adds some capabilities to help you with the maintenance of the pinning and automates much of that process. So I'm going to go ahead and first let's see if I can remember the command. I'm going to ask for what pins are there on my Preflix app domain, and let's list them. Okay, so this is the actual signature for the pinning, the certificate public key, which is being given from the Approov service off to the app so that it can actually pin against this. And what pinning is actually doing, is, let's put this up. Wow, it's really slow with everything that's going on. So in the case of pinning, what we're doing here, in a normal attacker who's trying to man in the middle, what they're going to do is they're going to present a certificate that is associated with some trust store certificate in the app that's running. And if all you're doing is checking the trust store, the attacker can pollute that trust store and go ahead and make this certificate look like it is the API service being spoofed by the man in the middle. So you can make the connections, even though these are TLS, they're encrypted. Because he's passing certificates, he can unencrypt, inspect the traffic, modify it. And so to block that, we can actually add some additional trust checks within the app. So in this case, the app is going to look for a particular public key, so a particular certificate. And in this case, when the hacker sends this spoofing certificate in, the trust store on the device might say it's okay, but the app itself is going to reject it because it's not the certificate that it's looking for back in the back. So I'm going to sort of emulate what's going to happen here by actually, first thing I need to do is I'm going to specifically break the pinning on this one running instance. So I need to actually grab the device ID, which is right here. So this is just the Android logcat that I have running as we go through. So I'm going to go ahead and put this command back. So let me do that again. All right, now I'm going to go to a specific device. In this case, the device is running the app on Android. I'm going to block all the pinning here, and I'm just keeping my security policies default. I have a custom security policy, so I just wanted to clean that up. Okay, so we have successfully broken the pinning, hopefully, on this app. So if, let me go back to this, I'm just going to relaunch the app, and it may take a second to go through. Okay, so because the device could not validate the pinning. In this case, then it was go ahead and could not connect to the API service. So if this was a man in the middle presenting a fake certificate, you'd still experience this. So let's see if we can put this back. So I'm going to go ahead and instead of blocking, I'm going to restore the correct pin. I'll go ahead and get rid of this. And at this point, hopefully, we will have our device being recognized again. Nope, not quite yet. Sometimes it takes a sec to get through this network. Okay, we're back in business. So there we go. So we both broken the pinning as if we were simulating an attack, as well as fixed it again. And this kind of device-specific whitelisting, blacklisting, breaking pinning, changing security policies, whether you're going to accept debuggers and such, is all handled through the Approov CLI and is very useful for testing. So at this,
install the app. No need to touch the app at all.
That's right. Yeah, we weren't doing any installations. Everything was being done. So if you have installations out in the field, there is no reinstallation going on here. Every time the device is communicating with the Approov service to get a token, it's getting updated information as it goes through.
All right.
So now the question will be, what's going on in iOS? Okay, it says it built it.
You've got 3 minutes left.
All right. Let's see. So let's check the iOS world. Okay, so I launched the app and something went wrong. So we know, of course, that we probably needed to register the app. So we're going to register iOS in this case and just make sure I'm in the right console. Yeah. So we're going to register iOS. And
now we're depending.
Okay. So we registered and it still appears that something has gone wrong. Here's the app. And what I suspect is actually gone wrong is that when this device is launched, it's being launched by the Metro service, the bundler, and it's actually using a debugger to launch the application. And so my belief is that this app is actually detecting that it's been launched in a debugger, which would be considered a security violation. So if I'm correct, then if I relaunch it by hand, hopefully it will work. Yes.
Very good.
Okay, so in this case, now we're running in a healthy environment because we didn't launch it from a debugger, so we're good. So surprisingly or unsurprisingly, we are 2 for 2 today. We integrated the Approov checks into the backend, and for both Android and iOS, we now have secure apps, while at the same time, all the bots are being blocked, all the man-in-the-middle people are being thwarted, and anybody trying to tamper with the app or to root the device or so have you, those are all being flushed out as well.
Okay, so that was 28 minutes, Skip. 28 minutes for both iOS and Android, and the certificate is in the mail.
I'll take that, George. Thank you. So there we have it. How about some more questions?
Yeah. So, what I guess it's kind of similar question around the backend integration. Are there? I know that there's integrations with people like WAFs, for example, as well, that aren't mentioned there, but they're mentioned on our partner page. What other options are there in terms of integration in the back end? I know we work with Fortinet for the WAF integration, which means basically you can just have one single point of validation in the back end, and do integrate the Approov check, and that's something that can be done with pretty easily. Yeah, maybe it's
where is it? Is it in the resources?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So I think our CEO, David Stewart, just did a webinar recently with 42 Crunch. We talked about Cloudflare, which is actually in there. You just mentioned Fortinet, Kong, Nginx, TIBCO, which used to be Mashery, as well as AWS through the gateway. On the Microsoft side, as I said, that's not my area of expertise, but into Microsoft Azure. And then we do have actually integration with browsers. We really are specialists in mobile security, and we strongly encourage you, if you have the ability, to separate the traffic between your browser making API calls as well as your, your mobile channels making API calls. But for ease of integration, we have integrated in with Fingerprint.js, Google reCAPTCHA, and HCAPTCHA, which are ways to help authenticate sort of in the browser world. And we will work with them, and if everything looks good, then you get a same approved token delivered back through those API calls, so your backend can stay the same. As I said, we do strongly encourage you to have separate ingress points for the different traffic sources. I think that's considered best practice, but if not, then this eases the integration there.
Okay. And then, if each one of these, there's basically two things. There's the quick starts are available to make it easy, but it's also been tested, and works. But if there's something that is an integration that isn't on the list, either one of the application development environments or one of these partners, that's something that we can easily take a look at, right?
Yeah, send us an email, go to the contact us page, make an inquiry, and somebody will be there to answer your question. Okay. And hopefully set up some work with you, or set up a demo one-on-one time. If you just want to call and talk to us to walk through a specific front end or back end quick start, you have questions about security, you want to know best practices, how early you want to make the Approov checks. If you want to combine user authentication and Approov sort of app and device authenticity checking, we can have the ability to bind those tokens together. So there's a lot of advice. We love to chat. We love to do demos. So anybody that's interested, there's no reason they shouldn't be jumping on it. And of course, you can always push the free trial button and go ahead and sign up for your trial. When you do this, you'll quickly get back an email. And well, looks like the last time I signed up for a trial, I was spoofing around. Okay. So George, I think it's over to you.
Okay, so if I let's just bring this to a close then. So I think that was very, very impressive that you managed to do this in 30 minutes for both platforms. And this is something that you can do yourselves. We have a 30-day trial, so never mind 30 minutes. You have a full 30 days to implement Approov in your own environment with your own apps. It's completely complimentary. There's no credit card required to get started. And you basically have to do the things that Skip did. So you have to integrate the SDK in the front end and in the mobile app and register it. And you need to integrate the token check in the back end, and then you're up and running. And we talked a little bit about the threats that are out there and how effective Approov is at blocking those threats, and the kind of control you've got over the environment the application's running in. So you get all of that, and you can see, very, very quickly whether Approov works for you and raises the level of security in your environment. We realize that starting a trial it's not always just about wanting to start a trial. There are other things. Sometimes there's security teams involved who have to obviously validate a cloud service. You have to get some level of approval from other functions in the organization. So we have some tools that are available to you. What you can expect from the trial. There's a blog. There's a document called the Approov Security and Compliance Guide, which really is intended for the security team to take a look at how we protect your information and how we protect the service. And then you can see the full range of implementation guides and quick starts that are available as well. So anyway, in conclusion, hopefully you agree that there's no reason why you wouldn't start a trial right now, and hopefully you'll be able to navigate to the trial request page on the approov.io website and request a trial. And you may even get the chance to work with us, and that obviously is part of the benefit of working with the company. So anyway, that's it. Skip, anything else you want to add?
No, I'd love to work with anybody. So if you're interested in chatting more about API and mobile security strategies, by all means get in touch. If you sign up for a trial, then you will get me, or maybe someone better than me, to help you out and support you in your efforts.
All right. Okay. Well, with that, we're ending the webinar. Thanks for attending, and speak to you all soon.
Take care, everybody.